Hello everyone. This is a video I've just been encouraged to make by my parents. This is not my caravan, for anyone watching. This is my parents' caravan, but from what I know about the caravan is that the bed's obviously, the sofa's turned into the bed, and in the middle you've got these two rails on either side, and the little slats come out. And one of the biggest problems that people complain about on the internet about these caravans is that the slats always fall down in the middle, and people are spending hundreds of pounds on professional caravan repair people unnecessarily, as I have just discovered, because there's a fairly straightforward solution that you can do. I'm fairly handy with a screwdriver and a drill, but honestly this solution literally took me 10 minutes to do, and I didn't need any additional materials or anything like that, and it's just as sturdy as before, and now the bed slides out very nicely. So let me just demonstrate that for you. So as you can see, the bed pulls out really nicely, doesn't fall down the middle. The biggest issue here was the slats towards the end, where it would move left and right and fall down the middle. But as you can see, even though they do still move left and right, they don't fall down. There's still plenty of slat that's moved all the way to the right there. There's plenty of slat still on the rail. So the solution to this problem is very easy. It's just one I came up with. These are the tools that you're going to need. The impact driver / drill is completely optional, but I'd recommend definitely a smallish flathead screwdriver, definitely a tape measure, and some sort of Phillips head screwdriver. Making the job easier is this ratchet Phillips head screwdriver, but that's completely up to you if you have one, if you don't. But ultimately the only things you really need are these three bits here to complete this job. So the main issue here is that the rails aren't parallel. It's as simple as that. Okay, so as the slats come out, one side is, the gap sort of opens up as you come closer down this way, therefore the slats can fall out. So all you literally need is, as I say, those three bits right there, and all it is a case of is undoing some of the screws on this left side as you're facing the end of the caravan on the left side. On this side it would be way too awkward to complete this job, so always on the left. The first thing you want to do is grab your tape measure, and you want to come to the end of the caravan here. Even though I've done this fix, it's still awkward to push this back in, but I can't do it with one hand. And what you want to do is you want to measure the gap between this, the edge of the rail here and the edge of the rail here, and that is going to basically give you the optimal gap size that you want on both ends. Then what you want to do is measure the gap size on this end, same way, so from the edge of the rail to the other edge, and that's going to basically show you what the difference is. Now this repair that I've done is completely seamless, so you can't actually see from the outside any difference in look to the caravan, which is good. As I say, it requires no heavy modification. So without any more faffing about and me rambling on about what we need to do to fix this problem, the first thing you want to do is grab the flathead screwdriver. Now I'm not actually going to do the repair in the video, but I'm going to explain the process for you because I don't really want to undo everything I've just done, let alone one-handed. So if you come down here, you can actually see this screw cover here, and what you want to do is put the screwdriver under there and pop that off. And underneath there, if I can get it off, which I probably can't one-handed, there we go. So under there you can actually see there's a screw hole. So that's one of the screws that's holding this whole panel in place. And the nice thing is that basically the solution is to undo a load of screws and pull this out, and then screw it back in. So you can pull off that cover and take that screw out. Coming inside, if I awkwardly camber about, looking in here, we've got this little corner bracket here, so you want to pop this cover off. You can see I've milled it a bit with the flathead, it's a bit awkward, but that cover comes off, and then there's 4 screws inside here, and you just want to take the 2 out that are screwed into this panel. Coming down, you've got this cover, and you can see there basically what I've done is that there's now a screw hole visible. Obviously that's only from the inside, so if you're that precious about it, obviously don't do the job, but I'd much rather the bed be working. You basically want to pop that cover off, and I'll show you what that looks like. There we are. So the cover looks something like this with the 2 little feet, and then there's just a screw that goes from this panel here into the end panel, and similar thing down here. So this one on the left side, you want to take the screws out of there as well. Okay, the next thing, we want to come down to here. There's a very awkward to get to cover here, same situation. Take that screw out, one down here, and that's it for the screws screwing the panels together. Take all of the screws out, so essentially this end of the panel is going to be loose. The next thing you're going to want to do, if you really need to, I had to on this one because there was still a bend in the middle here, but I also took the 2 screws out of here, so this one and this one, so I could also move that back. So this corner bracket is exactly the same as the one on that end. Now, super simple. Once all those screws are out, make sure you put them somewhere, where you know where they are. Try and keep track of which one's going which. I mean, they're all relatively the same, apart from the one in the end is really long. So obviously that's fairly obvious where they go. They're all fairly similar, but just keep an eye on that. Then what you want to do is, now all the screws are out, this whole panel, including the door, is going to be completely loose at this end, but it's still going to be fixed down here at this end. And you're basically going to want to move it until it's in a position at which the gap at this end between the 2 rails is the same as the gap between the 2 rails here, and then literally screw the screws back in. No need to drill pilot holes, I found. You literally just screw it back in. So you can see on our one there's a gap here, probably what, 6 millimeters I've added. You might think that's kind of non-optimal, but ultimately it doesn't really matter because the 2 screws here are holding it in. You've got 2 screws down the side and then 1 on the back, so it's still super strong. So I moved it about 6 mil, and that's basically made the gap the same at each end. On here, I also had to take the screws out of here, and they're just holding this kind of center bracket in place. Super janky, but I just stuffed a little grout spreader of the correct gap in there just to give it a bit more strength, but ultimately it's still super strong. You just want to make sure as well, obviously, that when you fold this back down, it still sits on there. So you can see as we go, the gap kind of gets bigger, but it's still sat on that lip. So that's going to be perfectly strong still. So no need to worry about that. But you might need to do a bit more modification if your gap is more sort of severe. But on our one, we didn't need to do it. So that's literally what you need to do. So once all of the screws are back in place, you can use the impact driver or a drill if you want to make the process a bit faster. Obviously, you want to be careful not to strip the screws or anything like that. But that's literally it. Literally 10 minutes of work, almost as long as this video, and that's literally the job done. And now my parents can use the double bed without any issues. So I hope that has been helpful for anyone watching. I'm sorry I didn't actually demonstrate the process specifically step by step in the video, showing how I did, but I said I didn't want to undo it. But my parents recommended that I make a video of this just to show you. But as you can see, it cost me no money. Barely any effort, 10 minutes or so. I'm a bit sweaty because it's hot in here, but the job is done, the bed's fixed, works really nicely. So I hope that helps someone, and I will see you all later.